Hi, Crow.
Hi, how are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Doing well.
Is your camera like on the ceiling or something?
It's
It looks really.
no, I'm like I do streaming and stuff, so I usually have to have it on
Yeah.
top of my monitor. Yeah.
Yeah. You have a Twitch. Is it Twitch you do?
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
Yep.
So you're at home right now
Yes, I am.
after a little bit of a trip away.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Lot a bit of a trip away.
So how was that? You just got back from Europe.
It was fun. We had a really good time, but I'm like just happy to be home within, the comfort of my own privacy. So
So what was the highlight of your European tour?
I will say, honestly, Italy was like my favorite, but there was a show specifically in Italy. It was a festival. It was like a smaller festival called Frantic Fest. And we like showed up. It was like two stages. So I was just thinking, okay, well, I didn't know what to expect, but everybody that was there, it was like a couple of thousand, like maybe 2,000 people, but everybody like showed up to have a really good time. So it was just so much fun. Everybody had a lot of energy in the audience, and it was like just made a world of a difference.
So when you're doing these festivals, do you stick around? Do you watch the other bands make a weekend of it or a day of it?
Yeah, sometimes we have to like make it to another show that night. So sometimes we have to leave like as soon as possible just so that we're not late for the next show. But if we have the opportunity, we will try to stay for the whole thing. For Brutal Assault, we played like really early. I think it was like 10:30 a.m. or something, but then we just ended up staying the entire day. And it was like the funniest time ever. So I got to catch a bunch of different bands that day.
And who did you catch did you catch any new bands that you haven't seen before?
So I'm not gonna say new because they're not new, but I had never really like been exposed to Gatecreeper before. I know that sounds like maybe ridiculous, but they were like incredible. Like they were so good. And we caught them two times because we played Summer Breeze with them, and then they also played Frantic Fest as well. And they were like amazing both times.
I'm a big fan as well.
Oh yeah, they're awesome.
So on this tour, were you playing stuff from the new album?
Yeah, we played actually quite a bit of the set was from the new album. It was like four songs. I'm pretty sure it was four songs from the new album, and then it was like maybe like a 12 or 13 song set. So a good portion of it.
So you must have been playing some songs that people haven't heard before.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
So how is that?
It's a little nerve-wracking because usually we're still kind of like, a baby band is what I would call it, I guess. But there are usually a few people at the shows who know the words to like a lot of the songs, which is like kind of humbling to say the least. But it's a little nerve-wracking because when you play the newer songs, you're like, you don't know how people are going to react. And you don't know if the people who know all the older stuff are just going to be like standing there, just like, okay, what is this? But people have been like really receptive and really great. So even while we're playing the newer stuff that nobody knows, they're still able to like kind of at least like move around or, still actively be a part of the show. In my opinion, I think that the audience is just as much a part of the show as like the people on stage. So I'm always really grateful when they receive us well.
So let's talk about the new album,
Yeah.
October 6th, Errors.
Yeah.
How does it feel in this period before it comes out? But like the record is done, but you're just kind of sitting around waiting for it to come out.
The
How does it feel?
waiting. It's always just like this just excited anticipation. Like I like this album better than the last one we did. Of course, like that was our first album and it's something that I hold near and dear to my heart. But this one, I feel that we're all like a little bit more honed in as musicians, as writers. And I think that this one is just a lot closer to what I always wanted to sound like. So I'm really excited for people to hear it. And I just hope that people feel the same. It's a little bit different. My vocal style, I would say, is, in my opinion, is pretty different from the first album, but I don't know if anybody would agree. But it's just this anticipation of whether or not people are going to like it as much as I do. But I'm excited. I'm ready to release it. Thankfully,
Uh,
it's not that much longer.
how do you think your vocal style has changed? You said you think it's changed. How do you think it's changed?
I would say that for the first album, it seems a little bit more, I don't know if I want to say clean because it wasn't really clean, but it's a lot more yelling than kind of like screaming or harsh vocals. And for the newer album, I would say that the vocals are a little bit more harsh, not to the level of just like total and complete like cradle of filth the entire time, but I definitely tried to push myself a little bit more. I think that I still, when you're recording an album, it's still that fear of like, I don't want to push myself too hard on the first song and then the rest of the album sounds like shit because I've lost my voice. So I was kind of still, I don't want to say holding back, but trying to be responsible, I guess, that my voice was still intact throughout the entire recording process. But it's a little bit, in my opinion, it's a little bit harsher than the first album.
When you're trying this new vocal style and like pushing yourself, in the back of your mind, you must be thinking you've got to go out and sing these live.
Yeah.
You don't want to kill your voice on the first day of the tour.
Right.
So is that a concern?
It's absolutely like a huge concern. So before every single show, I have that anxiety of like, am I going to be okay today kind of thing. But I did have one experience that was like pretty terrifying. And it wasn't a big show. It was a show in, it wasn't technically New Orleans. It was just outside of New Orleans. But I did something during the set where I had like spit. And then it was like immediately after I spit, my throat just like went dead. Like it was so strange. I guess it's just like I dried it out too quickly. But I went to open my mouth for the next like line of lyrics. It was in the middle of a song and nothing came out, like no sound. And so I was like, just the entire time. And the entire show was really a nightmare because after that, I just kind of was squeaking the entire time. But I was like, I can't just stop the show. So it was like so embarrassing the entire time. But ever since that moment, I have been really, really conscious of trying to preserve my like throat and trying to make sure that I'm doing everything correctly. And admittedly, while we were touring the last album, I was being like very irresponsible, in my opinion, on how I was performing. So I wasn't warming up. I wasn't really like trying to be as conscious of diaphragmatic breathing. So for this album, or at least like the touring we've been doing within the past year or so, I've been really, really conscious of like trying to stretch a lot beforehand, stretching my upper body, stretching my neck, warming up for at least a good like 20 minutes. And then having like 30 minutes to like an hour of rest time before we actually go on stage. Trying to drink a ton of water before we play a show. I drink like 2 gallons of water or something crazy like that. And it's been making like a world of a difference. I'm able to push myself a little bit harder and I'm able to try different things without like totally losing my voice after the second or third show.
I think that's good advice for anybody, but especially like
right.
people in the extreme heavy music world.
Right. Absolutely.
And end up sounding like me.
Well, I've done it so many times. I've hurt myself so many times. But I think people have this idea of like, if you're doing a harsher, more extreme vocal, it's not the same thing as like when you're singing, like you can just kind of like go for it. But really, I mean, we should be much more conscious of like trying to preserve our voices than like people who are doing just like singing or smooth vocals, just because we're like doing something a little bit more extreme or like pushing ourselves a little bit harder. So I think it's really important to warm up and, hydrate and all that.
It's not very rock and roll, but
right. I know. It's not very cool or whatever, but
yeah. So I spoke to Tyler a couple of years ago when the first album came out. So what do you think you learned from that album that's helped you with this album?
So I will say the writing process for the first album, I was very concerned about my lyrical content. I was worried about how people would receive it. So there were a lot of things that I wanted to talk about, or just things that even just within my personal life that I wanted to mention, that I was too afraid to really like either bring up at all or expand too much on. And I think for this album, it was just kind of like, well, just allow yourself to like be a little bit more honest and allow yourself to be a little bit more uninhibited as far as like what I'm talking about. So it might be vague, especially if you don't know exactly what's going on in my personal life, but there are a lot of songs that for me, it was kind of like a bearing of like my soul. Basically, it was like things that I was struggling with or personal battles that I was like fighting at the time that I really just allowed myself to talk about. And I think that's so important for me to be able to not feel worried about what I'm writing, if that makes any sense.
Yeah, totally. Why do you think it's important to share that stuff?
I just think for me, it's being able to look back on it and think like, oh, that was something that I really gave from the bottom of like my heart, basically. It just wasn't something that I felt was safe enough to be able to release. I can actually like be really proud of what I've created.
On this album, you got a couple of collabs as well,
Yes.
including the last single.
Yes.
Tell me about why you wanted to do that and how that all came about.
It was actually more of Tyler's idea. He was just like, hey, I think it'd be a good idea if we had like a spot for guest vocals. So pick a song. And I was like, okay. And this song, I was like, well, this could be a great opportunity. So I have a feminist song on both albums. I mean, this song has like very similar lyrical content to Red Guillotine from the first album, but it's a little bit different. It's a little bit more angry and a little bit more like just harsh, basically, I guess. And I thought that would be a great opportunity to work with another lady vocalist, which I've always wanted to do anyway. And so we're really, really excited that Candace agreed to it, because I was thinking there's no way. She's like probably way too busy. Like, you know, she's got other things going on. There's no way she's going to have time. But she's been so incredibly gracious through the entire process. And she's been really hands-on involved. And she's just made it like so much more of a beautiful experience.
So we're talking about Candice for Walls of Jericho. So that's like
Right.
and a hardcore royalty there.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Is that somebody that you were paying attention to early on?
Yeah, I mean, for sure. And actually, especially more so now, naturally, now that we've been working together a little bit. And I've been just like watching all of the live videos that have come out lately. And it's like she has to be one of the toughest people in the genre right now. I mean, really, if you've ever seen her live or seen any, we keep missing her. Our paths have almost crossed this entire European tour, but I haven't been able to see her live yet. But all the live videos, she is just like incredible. I mean, she's a powerhouse. And so it's just been such a privilege being able to work with somebody like her.
It's such a good track.
Oh, thank you.
I love it. I love the groove of it as well. You seem to find the groove in you know, it's not just like banging yourself over the head for the
sure
song. You definitely got that groove, and that's something that I always really like.
Yes, me too. I'm the same way. I like just like straightforward, like, you know, tough guy hardcore and stuff like that. But I also like something that you can kind of move to a little bit. And my favorite part about that recording is also the difference in kind of our cadence of our vocals. Like she's got a much different vocal style, not only like as far as the actual sound of her vocals, but also just like the rhythm of how she delivers a line. And so I thought it was really cool to be able to hear the difference in how we both deliver a line, basically.
Okay, let's talk about the song Nora.
Okay.
which is the last song on the album. Something very different for you.
Right.
tell me about how that came about.
It was honestly something that I didn't write any lyrics for until we were in the studio. Like we literally were there the day of recording that one, because it's a short one. It's like an outro. I think it's like maybe a minute long or something. Yeah. Or as far as like the vocals, the part with the vocals is like 30 seconds or something. And so I just sat down and I wrote something down like that day. And I was like, okay, I mean, how am I going to do this? I was like, I don't really feel that this is the kind of song that I should just do like the same kind of vocals that I did for the rest of the album. So I was like, let me try something that I'm very, very uncomfortable doing. And let's just do like a spoken word kind of like clean thing. And even now listening back, it's really like outside of my comfort zone. It's something that's like, for me, it's like, it feels very bearing. But I like it. I think it's cool. And I like that I was able to try something a little bit different than I'm used to.
Do you think it allows you to experiment more moving forward?
Maybe. I don't know. It really is like a terrifying thing for me to do, is just like not yell or scream, basically. Just because I'm really not, I know that sounds like maybe so backwards, but I'm just really not used to hearing the sound of my voice like that in that regard. But maybe we'll see.
Any more tour plans you can tell us about after that?
So we're like scheduling stuff for early next year now. So there are a lot of people in the States, and probably well, I'm just going to say there are a lot of people in the States that weren't able to catch us this year with some of the tours that we've been doing. So if you haven't, definitely like keep an eye out because we do have a lot of stuff in the works for like the first quarter of next year. Basically, we're kind of just trying to keep moving. We don't want to get to a point to where we're just like standing still for too long, because that's when you just start getting lazy. So we want to just like keep the ball rolling, basically. Yeah, so just keep an eye out.
Yeah, it sounds like things are going well. So I wish you all the best for everything that's coming up. Apologies again for my voice.
Oh, I'm sorry that you had to talk through it. That sucks. Yeah.
But yeah, thank you very much for your time. I appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me. Thank you.
I'm over this!